Because of the ending of The Sopranos, fans have been debating Tony Soprano's fate for almost 20 years. The cut to black was so sudden that some people didn't even think Tony died at all. They believed David Chase simply left the ending open to interpretation. Over time, however, Chase has made it pretty clear that Tony dies in that diner. The real mystery is who was responsible. Because of that, countless theories have appeared over the years. The most common theory is that New York was behind it. After all, the relationship between New York and New Jersey completely collapsed by the end of the series. Phil is dead, several important people have been killed, and there is still plenty of bad blood between both families.
Your brother Billy, whatever happened there?
All right, then.
Then there's Patsy. Patsy had every reason to hate Tony after the murder of his twin brother. While he appears to move on, some fans believe he never truly forgave him. Another theory points towards Eugene's family. Before his death, Eugene desperately wanted to leave the mob behind and move to Florida with his wife. Tony refused to let him go, leaving Eugene trapped between the mob and the FBI. Eventually, he takes his own life. Because of that, some fans believe members of Eugene's family could have wanted revenge against Tony years later. Others point towards Furio, who once seriously considered killing Tony himself before fleeing back to Italy. I think there's at least some truth in most of these theories. Personally, I do believe New York was involved in Tony's murder. The timing makes sense, the motive is there, and they had every reason to want Tony gone. But I've never been nearly as interested in who pulled the trigger as I am in who allowed it to happen. Because there's one person that keeps standing out to me every time I rewatch the final season, Paulie Walnuts.
What do you hear? What do you say?
I think Paulie's involvement is so obvious that I don't really doubt it anymore. Because throughout the entire series, Paulie repeatedly shows us exactly who he is. We've already seen him choose New York over Tony before. Throughout the series, Paulie constantly talks about loyalty. He acts like he's one of the last old school guys left in the family. But the moment he starts feeling underappreciated by Tony, that loyalty suddenly becomes a lot more flexible. His relationship with Johnny Sack is the perfect example. Paulie starts calling Johnny behind Tony's back, feeding him information and trying to build a relationship with New York. What's important here isn't the information itself, it's the fact that Paulie is willing to do it at all. The second Paulie feels insecure about his position, he immediately starts looking elsewhere, and I don't think that's a coincidence. Paulie has spent his entire life attaching himself to whoever he believes is strongest. He survived the Colombo Wars, he survived multiple bosses, he survived internal conflicts that killed people much younger and smarter than him. Paulie isn't loyal to people, Paulie is loyal to survival.
You ever feel like nothing good was ever gonna happen to you?
Yeah, and nothing did. So what? I'm alive, I'm surviving.
And that's exactly why his relationship with Tony becomes so important later in the show. By the final season, the relationship between Tony and Paulie is completely different from what it used to be.
When he comes, TV commercials. Drives me fucking crazy.
The best example is their trip to Florida. The whole trip, Tony seems incredibly annoyed by Paulie. To be fair, Tony has always been annoyed by Paulie.
Now? Look at this. Fucking wrinkles like an old lady's cunt. The fuck?
He constantly rolls his eyes at him, gets frustrated by his stories, and seems exhausted by his personality. This trip feels different. The tension feels much heavier. Then they go out on the boat. On the surface, not much happens. Tony keeps bringing up the joke that Ralph made about Ginny Sack and the fact that somebody had to leak it to New York. For maybe the first time in the entire series, Paulie genuinely looks terrified of Tony. Because deep down, Paulie knows Tony suspects him. The entire trip feels uncomfortable. Tony keeps pushing, Paulie keeps denying it, and there are multiple moments where it genuinely feels like Tony is considering killing him right then and there. What's interesting is that Paulie seems aware of that possibility. He spends most of the trip trying to calm Tony down, reassure him, and avoid saying the wrong thing. This isn't the behavior of somebody who feels secure in his relationship with his boss. This is somebody trying to survive. And I think Paulie realizes something during that trip. Tony doesn't trust him anymore. For years, Paulie has managed to survive by staying useful, staying loyal enough, and avoiding becoming a problem. But now things are different. Tony sees him as a liability, a loose cannon, Maybe Paulie gets away with it this time, but he has to know there will eventually be a next time. And if you're Paulie, that's a terrifying realization, because Paulie knows exactly what happens to people once Tony stops trusting them, which is why I think everything changes after that trip. A war breaks out with New York. Tony's inner circle starts disappearing. The family becomes weaker than it's ever been, and suddenly Paulie finds himself in the exact situation he spent his entire life preparing for, a situation where survival matters more than loyalty.
I think certain people starting to wonder where your heart is.
People who? Tony? What the fuck's that supposed to mean?
Maybe it's the years of feeling underappreciated. Maybe it's the humiliation of realizing Tony never really trusted him. Maybe it's the Virgin Mary appearing at the Bing. Whatever the reason, I think Paulie sees where things are heading and decides to protect himself one last time. And honestly, if this was all I had, I would probably still call it a theory. But then there's Paulie's final scene. The scene that, for me at least, changes everything. Because that's the moment I stopped seeing it as a theory. That's the moment I knew Paulie was involved. The conversation Paulie and Tony have is strange. Paulie initially turns down Tony's offer, and the entire interaction feels off. The look Paulie gives Tony is something between guilt and acceptance, almost like he's already made peace with something that Tony knows nothing about. That's why the line, "I live to serve you, my liege," has always felt strange to me. On the surface, it's a joke, but the more I watch it, the more it feels like a goodbye. Tony walks away, and there sits Paulie all alone. He looks at Tony one last time, and to me, it almost looks like he's accepting what he's done. When you combine that scene with Paulie's relationship with Johnny Sack, his fear during the trip to Florida, and everything that happens leading up to the finale, I honestly don't see another conclusion. I think New York killed Tony, and I think Paulie knew it was going to happen. Of course, we'll probably never know exactly what happened. That's what makes the ending so brilliant in the first place. But when I look at all the evidence, I don't see Paulie as an innocent bystander. I see a man who spent his entire life adapting, surviving, and protecting himself above everything else. A man who had already betrayed Tony's trust before. A man who knew Tony no longer trusted him. And a man who, when given the choice between loyalty and survival, would choose survival every single time. Maybe somebody else planned the details, but if you ask me, Paulie Gualtieri was definitely involved. If you enjoyed the video, feel free to like and subscribe. I really enjoy making these analysis videos, and I'll probably keep making more in the future. If you have any suggestions for a character, episode, or even another show, let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching.
I live but to serve you, my liege.